Dr. Benastal will get the department updates.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So I'll read one. It just says hybrid learning, the option should be available to all students. Needs to be ready for virtual classroom option. Doesn't matter what you believe in this moment. If there's an outbreak at school, we'll be back to online classes. Better be prepared for that. Virtual learning should be an available option. Hybrid learning enables students to still branch out, yet feel safe in where they are. So there's over 100 different comments kind of related to basically what we were doing in the spring. So that virtual hybrid choice that students and parents had. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share. And we put the links and tried to explain this in update 50. But we're going to have to do more communicating on this. And that is all of the waivers that the governor signed that had to do with attendance waivers, meaning that we didn't, have to, there was flexibility in how we take attendance. There was flexibility in seat time, the amount of time that kids had to be at school physically in their seat, the number of days of curriculum. Because of the pandemic, there was waivers signed to allow all school districts to have that flexibility. All of those waivers came to an end on June 30th. And we are now, did that come to an end, which then reverted us back to the regular requirements. In addition to that, the governor directed all schools, all public schools, students and staff to be back in school in the fall for all-day in-person learning. Then there was some debate about whether there needs to be some exceptions. And the governor at first had no exceptions in that. And then after a lot of discussion, came out and recognized that there may be students with medical conditions that they would need to remain at home. And because of that, there's a program called independent study. And that's already existed in the state. There's clear parameters around what that looks like and what that's going to be. So that's the reason and the why behind when we shared that we are back this fall for TK through 12 for all of our students in person, full day. And by the way, we're very excited. And I know by reading a lot of the students' comments and the teachers that everyone's excited to be back as well. And to get back to, the connections and the relationships and those wraparound services that we do. But the why behind that is clearly because it is a law that we are directed back in school, and the virtual model and the hybrid model is not something that we are able to do under that law. So we have been putting out the information that we expect everyone back, and we're looking forward to that. And we also have information that if you are interested in that independent study option, we have a new principal, Mr. John Tung, that's excited to speak to anyone that is interested in that program, and we'll be able to explain all about that. And I think Dr. Forsey is going to share a little bit more about that later. All right, next we'll move on to Dr. Forsey, Educational Services.
All right, thank you, Dr. Benastal. To piggyback on the theme of Dr. Benastal's report, last year the legislature and the governor worked to change educational law, allowing for the distance learning environment that students experience throughout the state. I'm not sure the public at large understands that was an actual legislative and governor partnership to change educational law, which allowed students to be marked as present in school, although not physically in school and not on an independent study contract. That law essentially expired June 30th of 2021. So about 27 days ago. This year, the expectation from the state is that students will be back physically on campus, and if they are unable to do so, will enter into an independent study program, which also centers around a master agreement, which is individualized for each student and each family. Arcadia has offered an independent study program through Rancho Learning Center for decades, and we intend to continue to offer an independent study program for the many years to come. It is important to note this program is run by AUSD teachers and administrators. In other words, it's not outsourced to some other school or plan or county program. At the younger primary levels, there is more instruction, although not what students experienced last year in their virtual experience, which tapers out to a more and more independent program as students get older. Dr. Tung has set 3 Google meetings this Thursday for families who wish to receive more information about the independent study program available at Rancho, including what a master agreement may look like. Parents may access one of these meetings by completing the Google form available on the Rancho website, which is the first thing on the Rancho website now when you go on there. And the link was also sent out during the COVID update 50.
I know there's some other districts that use language like virtual academy, but really it's all going to be, it's all independent study, right? It's just kind of a
The legal way to do it, because I don't want to speak for others, but I may not try to do, but the legal way to do it is through independent study. And I think the governor was very clear that his expectation is that students are back physically on campuses. And if they are unable to do so, and again, his language really wasn't around being afraid, it was that they are not able to do so, that there is an independent study option. We'll make that independent study as best we can. But it is, for parents, it does require a substantial amount of independent work and supervision by parents. That's what it is set up to do, which is why it's independent study. And so districts may call their things academies, and they may call it different things, but the legal way to do it is through the independent study legislation, so to speak.
Regardless of what they're calling it, they're following those same guidelines, or they won't be getting credit.
I think you mentioned a lot of districts farm it out. They like hire someone else to do it. They don't do it in-house, but we do our own teachers. We have our own program through Rancho, correct?
We have a very robust program, and we have through Rancho, I mean, we saw their spotlight last spring, but we do have students that will go to Rancho, maybe for a time period. It's a season of their life where there's a specific situation, and then they'll go back to a traditional school, and they do well. It's not as those students who transition back, go back to their school and all of a sudden are behind. The Rancho program is a very, very robust program, and it is not what we did last year in virtual learning. Another requirement, and I know Dr. Rosdahl hit on it, but I'm not sure everyone understands the minutes last year were truncated.
Yes.
And so there was a lot less minute requirements for students. So even students engaged on a screen, it felt like a long day, but that was a lot less. Now it is that traditional school day that's going to go till 2:20, 2:30. And, even thinking of doing that through a screen just does not seem healthy for kids, because it is back to the regular minutes, which Edie has had a lot of fun calculating again, what are those normal minutes again after making the changes to everybody last year. So it will be an independent program. They will have a teacher that they are connected with, and it will not look like last year.
Also, to your question, I received a survey today from Deborah Duardo, LA County Superintendent. Clearly, there are school districts in LA County that don't have an independent study, never have. And so they are looking to either farm it out to a company or transfer those students to other districts that have programs. So she was trying to find out who has those programs. So it's proud to have one for many years now.
I know I call it independent study, but is there an opportunity for students who are in this program to actually interact with other students school day?
Yes, there are. So that's a great question. The independent study program is based on each student's individual master agreement, which is about, how much work is going to be done. Because independent study, your attendance is connected to your work completion, which is different than a traditional school setting, but that's literally how you earn your attendance as a student. With that said, the staff at Rancho is very cognizant about trying to make sure there are interactions. Now, sometimes there are students who are from large families or other pods that may not need that in the school setting. And yet there are also students at Rancho who don't have those connections, who very much need those opportunities at Rancho. And so that is, we have those opportunities. We'll still have, the opportunity for art, the opportunity for PE, the opportunity for music. And so it's a lot for our size of independent study program, which isn't large. We offer a tremendous amount of opportunities for students beyond typical academic, a typical academic setting.
So last question. If someone, if a student family chooses to do an independent study for, let's say, a couple of months, and then later they decide, hey, they're comfortable with come back, what is the process for that?
So they would let Rancho know, it would be the Rancho know that we're interested in going back to a traditional school site. Now, we cannot guarantee that it is their home school. That is always our preference. We would like to put them back at their home school. We just can't guarantee if a family moves in and there's not a spot in 4th grade, but we will put them back at one of our school sites. Again, the preference would be their home school, but that may not be available. And then they would work on really what's best for the student. It could be that we're finishing this chunk of work and let's finish that and then go back. Or there could be extenuating circumstances that make it necessary for that transfer to happen faster. But it truly is an individualized plan. It's not like, oh, only on Monday can you go back. It's literally working with the family and the kids to make the transition either way.
Great. Yeah, luckily all of our school sites are great. So thank you, Dr. Dorsey.
Families, I mean, this is uncomfortable for everyone, right? I'm a father, I'm an educator, it's change. And so there will be families who do this and think it's the best thing since sliced bread and why have they not done this before? And then there will be families who try it whose kids, maybe it's not what they were looking for and will look to go back. The nice thing is we are open for business and we will serve kids, whether it's independent study or whether it's at their school site. We are here to serve kids and we're going to do that.